Hello and welcome to the Shiny New Object podcast. My name is Tom Ollerton. I'm the founder of Automated Creative, the creative effectiveness ad tech platform. And this is a weekly podcast about the future of data-driven marketing. So if that's not your thing, you can go somewhere else now. But if it is, brilliant, you're here. So the way the podcast works is I get to interview one of our industry's leaders about the future of data-driven marketing. And this week is no different. I'm on a call with Tim Sparke, who is the founder of Congregation Partners. And Tim, I think, was one of my really early meetings when I set up Automated Creative, when I had absolutely no idea what was going on. And I said, Tim, is this a good idea? And he said, I think so. And we've been in touch ever since. And it's been really, well, you've been sort of a partner, referrer, pal, buddy, client, all those kind of things. So, Tim, it's a real joy to see you at all, but especially to have you on the podcast. So for anyone who doesn't know you and what you do, can you give them a bit of background?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tom. So Tim Sparke, founder of Congregation Partners, and we are a digital transformation practice. We've got two wings, so we help sort of marketing teams improve and develop in line with new technologies and new opportunities. And basically, there's two things we do as a business. So one, we do recruitment, find brilliant people that can help you upskill and accelerate your sort of transformation. And then the other side is capability building. So take your people and educate them, train them, develop new skills to help them be able to evolve their communications and their understanding of their consumers in line with what's happening. And I run the learning and development side of the business, which is basically teaching marketing and commercial teams about emerging channels, new opportunities, and what to do about them. And we create learning experiences that are very practical, very human, very hands-on, and very experiential. We try and keep away from sort of jargon and too much technical stuff because we don't think that's necessarily too important for marketers. But yeah, we do that, and we do it for an amazing range of clients. So we work with Coca-Cola and Bacardi and Unilever and lots of wonderful big established companies, as well as lots of smaller fast growth scale-ups and startups as well. So we've got a really nice mix and understanding of sort of what traditional marketers are going through in terms of how they're evolving their processes and their techniques, but also what some of the newer companies are doing in terms of more data-driven marketing and things like that, where they're actually selling directly to consumers. They have a lot more data to work with. Does that make sense?
Does, Tim. Thank you. So that's a massive amount of experience and responsibility. But you must have made some mistakes, I guess. We all have. But have you made any whoppers? Has there ever been one of those like ginormous, like head in hand moments that was horrible at the time, but actually in retrospect, you're glad that it happened?
I think because I practice marketing in a small scale for the business and the consultancy, but I'm not a marketer that's made any campaigns that have gone AWOL or completely sort of badly. So not necessarily mistakes in that respect. I think the one that I was thinking about when I read that question was this sort of quite early, when I started in my first digital agency. And basically I was at Apple previously, educating people around sort of how to use technologies better and a really sort of good understanding of how people actually interact with computers and tech and things like that. And then I was brought into advertising to teach. Basically, we worked in this digital agency called Agency Republic. And we were sort of trying to sell ideas to loads of marketers, like almost 20 years ago now. And we'd go and pitch these ideas, like you should do stuff on MySpace or you should do stuff on Facebook at the time. And they'd go, yeah, that's great. We're just going to run some more TV and some press and radio and things like that. And so they got me in to go and educate the clients and spend time with them. And I'd spend time with marketers, like showing them the internet and like visiting sites and testing stuff out. And I was really good in small groups. Like I loved training sort of 4 to 8 people or even one-to-one personal coaching and things like that. And I always avoided doing big presentations because I found it very stressful. And I was basically had some kind of, that fear of public speaking where it's, it was quite terrifying. And the other thing that really made me nervous was I was kind of fine teaching clients because I didn't really know them that well. But the idea of presenting in front of the agency, which was all my mates and all these wonderful people that I worked with, was crazy, super scary, like absolutely. And I avoided it for about a year and a half. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. We won't do it. And we had these all company meetings. I was like, yeah, you talk about me, but I don't need to present anything. And then basically there was a day where I had to do it. And basically I had to stand up and do a massive presentation. It was a 5-minute thing. It wasn't a long thing, but it was. And we had this very big screen in the background. But before my presentation, basically they said, oh, Tim's going to come and talk about what he's been doing with clients. But the screen had locked and I had to put in a password. And basically, I was so nervous that while I was trying to type in the password, my hands were shaking. I couldn't do it. And it took like 4 times. And then I finally got there and I rushed through this 3-minute presentation in no time at all and didn't get any key points across. And it was just, I need to fix this. This is not great. I need to do something about this. You can't be, it's ridiculous. Actually, you quite enjoy these things, but there was a level of sort of fear. And I think that's quite a common thing. A lot of people don't like public speaking. And so my fix was basically, I quite like self-help. I'm quite into a lot of that sort of stuff. So I thought, I love the idea of hypnosis. And I've always been fascinated with I don't know, just self-hypnosis, hypnosis, and mind control and lots of things around that. So I figured, who's good at hypnosis? Paul McKenna, he was the famous guy at the time.
Yeah, I remember him.
So I emailed, and he's stop smoking or do whatever. And I emailed him, and I said, listen, I've got this issue. Can you help? And
you emailed him, or his people, or just hello at Paul
It's McKenna. His website, whatever his website was.
20 years ago, yeah. Fair enough.
And someone got back to me and they said, he doesn't do this, or it's too expensive, you'll never be able to pay for it. But this is the guy who trains him, and he still does some practice. And they introduced me to this guy, this really old dude. And I emailed him, said, can you help? I've got this thing. And he goes, I don't really do any practice anymore, but once a year I take on a client. I just do a thing just to make sure I've still got the skills. And he just agreed to do it. And basically, I never met him. And you just had these two 2-hour phone chats with him where he just talks to you and he explores the problem, goes when's it gone well? When's it gone badly? Think about what the system was around the times where it went well. And basically, and it was using NLP, which is neural linguistic programming. So there's stuff around that, which is basically visualize 5 times it's gone brilliantly. And then you end up, you sort of
you anchor.
Yeah, you anchor it with some kind of you touch it. And so I did that. And afterwards, I sort of forgot about it. And I never really thought about it again. And then I had to do another presentation to the agency, and it just went well. And it just went fine. And then basically I started doing big presentations. And it was just nuts because I went through this whole situation of just something I'd avoided for my whole life. And then I had this critical point where it went really, really badly. To the outside audience, they probably didn't really notice. It was a bit of a mess up. But for me, it was calamitous. And then I found someone. They didn't even charge me any money. I literally had 4 hours free coaching. And it was only about 4 months after my next presentation to the agency, I was like, I forgot to thank Steve. It's completely changed everything. So I emailed him and I said, oh my God, this has been the best thing ever. And for me, it was one of those amazing sort of critical moments. And that just unlocked, just what I do today, which is I just love standing up and
what is your anchor?
What, the moments, or how do you do it?
And what is your anchor? You said you touched something, but do you still have that? Or?
I haven't done it in years, but you basically you have you touch your thumb on your first finger. You think about, right, I did this presentation at the BBC. It was amazing. Second finger, I did this thing. And you just have those 4 moments. It sort of brings that.
Because we're doing a book club at Automated Creative, and I happened to listen to actually one of the guests. Oh, sorry, I can't remember who it was, but he recommended the Way of the Wolf, the Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street guy, his book, and it's audiobook, and it's him reading it, right? And it's there's a style, there's got a style, but his thing is olfactory anchoring, right? And he says that smell for him is the strongest emotional thing for him, and so he has this I don't know, it's lip salve or so anyway, it's I don't even know what it smells of. Let's say eucalyptus. So whenever he has a good presentation, he just goes, and that's his olfactory anchor. So whenever he goes into a presentation, he goes, has a shot on this thing. I swear it's suitable for work. But you reminded me, I think my worst ever presentation, which was going pretty well. It was at the IAB. I think it was a social media something or other. Like, and it was before I started at We're Social, and I was trying to impress the guys there to try and give me a job, sort of semi-deliberately, and I was basically doing one of those, oh, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool, like examples of cool digital stuff that my agency hadn't made. And there was a campaign called Levi's Ass Cam, right, which is basically someone put like a camera, presumably on someone's attractive rear, and then they just filmed like people, like, you know, checking their bum out, right? It was just like, it was like, I don't know if it was actually an attractive person or it just had a big sign saying win $100. There was like, you know, there was a guy dressed up as Jesus, and like even he's like, you know, it was funny. It was like funny 20 years ago video stuff. And obviously within PowerPoint the video didn't play, so I was, it's fine, I'll just Google it. So I'm on stage and I Googled ass cam on in front of about 300 people on a massive screen. I'm like, oh fuck, oh. So then I went and did on a different search, and all I needed to type in was Levi's ass cam, and it would have been fine. But I just, it just, do you know what I mean? And I was just like, I'm really sorry, but there you go. And I literally died on my ass. But there you go. I still got the job. Anyway, Tim, we're off script. Right. Okay. So that was your big mistake. You used anchoring and NLP to get you back on track, and that's a lovely story. But let's go all the way down to a very specific bit of advice that you have for data-driven marketers. You work with a lot of them. What do you find is the thing that makes it click best for them?
So I think, for me, like, I'm quite obsessed with feedback, and I think measurement and feedback are pretty much one and the same thing. So just building a sort of culture, or it's a bit of an oversimplification, because if I think about a lot of clients I work with, a lot of marketers today, data, measurement, reporting is the universal challenge. No one's cracked it. It's really tricky, and you can do MMM. There's so many different things you can do, and they're overwhelmed. And some marketers will have not enough. They won't have enough in place, so they'll be, you know, getting scant measurement data, and then some of them are drowning in data. And I think finding that balance of you know, actionable, useful data that you can actually do something with is the big challenge. So I think we work with those sort of really data-driven businesses, and those ones that have a paucity of data, like finding something that works across those. And there's no right and wrong. And that's what I find is, even when you've got overwhelming amounts of data, that's just too much for marketers. It's too confusing. But there is something about, you know, from our business perspective, you know, I love getting feedback. We build like feedback systems into all of the training, all of the capability programs we do, because you need to sort of build a bit of a culture, a system, an approach that encourages feedback, measurement, and you sort of treat data collection and understanding and reporting as a product in itself. And I think that's what I'm quite obsessed with, which is like, how can you build a system yourself which is going to allow you to make sense of data? It could be a personal system, it could be a group system amongst your team, or it could be across the business. And I think the reality is, like, a lot of people don't really like feedback and don't like data. And a lot of companies aren't really designed for feedback and data. You know, they'll measure lots of things, but if you try and phone them, or if you try and provide feedback with an email, everything in the way the company is structured is to stop data getting through, to stop you sort of being able to feed back. So I think there's something about, you know, just how you personally can build systems around that sort of data. And you know, as a marketer, you just need to learn how to love it and to make sense of it, and decide what you want to measure, focus on it relentlessly. And we had like one client who was really focused on membership. So they wanted to build membership of their customers, like how many customers had signed up to the loyalty program and how they made the most sense of that. And we said, right, okay, one way of doing it is we can just put a screen in the reception that shows how many members we've got. And we'll show like how we're doing this week versus last week, how many we've got in total. And that felt like that's quite good. If you want to do something, make it visible, make it attractive, so everyone's thinking about and talking about it. And they were like, yeah, that's really depressing. We don't want people seeing those low numbers for the first few weeks. It'll just make them sad when they get to work. And you're like, yeah, that's the point. That's kind of the whole thing of, like, you know, if we want to improve this, we need to go through that depressing bit. That's fine. because then we'll get to the good bit and they'll start to see the feedback and they'll see the benefits, and we can see, right, okay, I haven't done enough this week to help that number increase. So what do we do about it next? So for me, it's like about building those systems rather than goals. A lot of marketers are like, we need to get 1 million signups by this point, or we need to improve our, brand metrics by this point. And they decide on a goal and they try and sort of complete it. And if we think about, and that's what we have, that's what's happening. We're recording this in January, where we've all set our New Year's targets. I'm going to go for a run every day in January. That's the whole point of what we're doing. But I guarantee here on the 26th, most of us probably haven't done all of the fitness goals that, I don't know, Tom, how are you doing with have you set any?
No, just to continue. I think I got in a good place last year. So I've actually, I like my goal is to not overstretch myself to the point at which I get annoyed and stop doing it. So consistency is my thing, Tim. So I was away seeing our client Bose last week in Boston, and I even did a little mini workout in my hotel room. We're not talking much, but we're talking something, which I think is a lot when it comes to business travel.
But that's the point. So a lot of us set big goals that are really unrealistic and hard to do. But actually, if you build a system around it of triggers, like every time I stay in a hotel, I spend 5 minutes doing something like that. If we develop those tiny habits, I'm quite obsessed with habits and all of the atomic habit stuff. I think it's really interesting. If you build a system like that, it's going to be a lot more achievable than goals. Goals provided, they can provide direction, they can give you momentum, but as soon as you hit a wall, or as soon as you get into the very busy phase, your goal drops off and you focus on everything else. Whereas having a system helps you focus on what matters. And thinking about the process is really interesting for me.
Yes, I really agree with that. Goals. Everyone gets excited about achieving a goal, but you need to get excited about the small steps on the system. Otherwise, you're going to get livid. Right. Okay. So we are going to now move on to your shiny new object, right? And your shiny new object is your own product, right? Which very rarely gets allowed on this podcast, Tim. But because you're Tim, you can absolutely tell us about Trevi. What is Trevi? Well, I know what it is, but tell the audience what Trevi is.
So we've got the Trevi app that we've developed, which is a lot of the education we're doing at the moment is around generative AI and helping clients understand AI. And what we'll often do is we'll, sort of show them the opportunities, what you can do with the latest models in terms of, thinking, strategic thinking, challenging your thinking, doing research and all of that sort of good stuff. Obviously looking at sort of image generation, video generation and things like that. But often with clients, they'll be signed up to a specific LLM and they won't, they'll go back and they'll just have to use Copilot or something like that, which is okay, but it's not the best. And we thought, what if we could create a playground where marketers just can go and explore the models in a very sort of safe sandbox? They can try everything out. They can do research. They can do consumer research. They can do new product innovations. They can do image generation, video generation, all of that sort of stuff without, risking any of their company data and just being able to try things. And we, I think learning only happens through experience. So you need to be using these tools and these models on a sort of regular basis. So that's what we created Trevi for, which is like a playground for marketers just to have a play with these things in a very hands-on.
Why did you call it Trevi?
Trevi is like this fountain in Rome, which is like you can basically ask it any question and you get loads of great information back. It's like
I didn't realize you could talk to that fountain. I thought it was just a load of horses.
And the other thing is you basically to get anything from Trevi, you have to throw coins in. So you throw your tokens in and you get a nice response. So that was that, but we're going to change the name and we're going to rebrand anyway. So this is an interim product. We're sort of in stealth mode at the moment, but it's got some really nice features. So you can do stuff like you can go on there and we've got a feature which is ask all the models, and you ask one research question and it asks 100 models their answer for that. You can put personas or new product ideas, so you can just ask any question that you ask ChatGPT or anything like that. And it then basically looks at all of those results, aggregates them, summarizes them, and shows you like 80% of them think this, 5% of them think that. So you can do that sort of amazing sort of stuff. You can do web scraping, so we can basically say what's trending on TikTok. So if I'm in fizzy drinks category, what's trending on fizzy drinks on TikTok? It will basically look at that. It will summarize the last 100 most viral posts on TikTok. It will provide themes around that and trends. And then you can use that for new product development, where you say, right, create me 3 product concepts based on those trends. So you can visualize your new product. And this is, a lot of what we do is sort of product innovation workshops with teams, which, and generally you have a trends forecaster who'll come in once every 6 months to, here's what's trending in this. We can do it with real-time data. So we can just say, right, what's coming in from TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, anything like that. And then let's think about using that as a springboard to some new product ideas. And once you've got your new product ideas, you've got the packaging, you've got the product sort of concept and a description, then you can put it in synthetic user testing, where you basically just use synthetic research. Doesn't replace sort of proper qual or quant research, but it's a good, I think this comes back to that data-driven, what makes you a better data-driven marketer is just, we can use data to make better decisions. The LLMs they're flawed in many, many different ways, but if you've just got a few concepts, you want to test them with the models, you'd be amazed at how often the results you get are really sort of replicated by traditional research as well.
And has anyone been all the way through yet and gone, right, what's trending on TikTok? It's, I don't know, transparent beer. Let's come up with a transparent beer concept. We tested it against the beer audience and then gone, right, we're going to put it in production. Has anyone gone all the way through?
Yeah, it's only.
Do you have any babies? Is the question.
We're only sort of 3 months in at the moment. So there's a couple of products that have gone into customer testing. So they're testing them with Tesco's, and
there you go.
Yeah,
that's proper, isn't it? Brilliant. Well done.
That's great. But yeah, it's pretty exciting.
And what are the objections you're handling mostly with that?
It's quite a Swiss Army penknife, so it does a lot, and it's sort of probably the UX is not where it could be. So it's got like image generation, video generation. It's got heat mapping, so you can upload images and it'll show you which one's likely to be more successful. So it's a bit of a sort of, it does a lot. And people have said you could take the Ask All the Models feature and just have that as a app in itself, and that'll work. We're quite keen on sort of having lots of features, but I think that's the main pushback of, is it just for MPD? That's our products. Ask 100 models, imaging. So it probably does too much. Is most of the feedback.
Well, it's the entrepreneur's instinct, right? Why cut yourself off from any revenue, right? It's the most natural thing to do is to think, well, look, I could get money from anywhere. I could get money from anywhere, and I have been very much guilty of that, and probably still am to a degree. Like automated creative could serve most brands, most markets, most functions, all the way through. But in reality, you have to be honest. Like, where are you strongest, right? Because you only have a limited resource to take this to market.
I agree. But at the same time, I think, like a really single-minded proposition is wonderful in many respects. Like when I worked at Apple years and years and years ago, we know that only 10% of people use about 10% of every bit of software they have. So we just have like very specific things. We just, whether it's Word or whatever, we use 10% of it. But across the organization, you'll find people will probably use about 50 or 60% of Excel, and so that, it's kind of, but at the same time, it's really, and we used to have people coming into Apple, like, why can't this do that? Like, why isn't it? Like, it's been able to do that for 10 years. It's there. But it's very hard for people to discover that stuff, and like learning software. There's that wonderful book, like Don't Make Me Think, about UX, which is like just make it really, really simple for me. And that's probably our next role. And we can sort of customize it for different clients. So we can switch off a lot of the stuff and just say, here's 3 things. And maybe you just open with one, and then by month 2, you add a few things. But I don't know. It's a perennial. Yeah, it's a challenge, definitely.
Well, look, I've seen the platform, and I was like, right, yeah, this is going to sell. That's going to fly, no question. So, Tim, I wish you all the best of luck with this. And I'm genuinely not going to need it. I said that to you last time we spoke. If someone wants to find out more about Trevi or Congregation, how do they get in touch with you?
So they can just email me, tim@congregation.io, or LinkedIn is always good for Tim Sparke. I think there's only one of us at the moment. So yeah, just get in touch. Give me a bit of background on what your question is or what you'd like to talk about is always helpful. And then that's probably it.
Brilliant. Tim, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom.